We often think that a man is defined by his actions, by the weight he lifts, the money he earns, or the battles he fights. But the Stoics knew better. They understood that before a man acts, he thinks. And before he thinks, he frames the world through language. Zeno of Citium, the founder of Stoicism, taught us that better to trip with the feet than with the tongue. Why? Because a physical stumble heals, but a verbal stumble reveals the architecture of a broken soul. There is a specific vocabulary of mediocrity, a lexicon of the loser, that many men adopt without realizing it. These aren't just casual sentences, they are psychological surrender flags. They are phrases that sound tough, indifferent, or even logical on the surface, but underneath, they are the sound of a man giving up on his potential. When you speak these words, you aren't just communicating, you are programming your mind to accept failure, to embrace victimhood, and to reject the burden of growth. In this video, we are going to ruthlessly dissect 10 things that a stupid man, defined not by low intelligence, but by a lack of wisdom, says repeatedly. We will strip away the excuses, expose the fear hiding behind the words, and replace them with the language of the Stoic, words of power, accountability, and unconquerable will. If you are ready to stop speaking like a victim and start speaking like a master of your fate, listen closely. Let's begin. 1. That's just how I am, the anchor of stagnation. The first mark of a man who has ceased to live is the phrase, "That's just how I am." This is the anthem of the static man. When confronted with a flaw, perhaps a quick temper, a tendency to be distant, or a habit of laziness, the weak man retreats behind the shield of identity. He treats his personality as if it were carved in stone, unchangeable and final. He believes that his history is his destiny. But let us look closer. This phrase is not an explanation, it is a refusal. It is a rejection of the fundamental human capacity for neuroplasticity and moral evolution. When a man says, "I'm just a jealous guy," or "I'm just not good at discipline," he is actually saying, "I am too lazy to do the work required to change." He is choosing the comfort of his flaws over the pain of growth. The Stoic perspective. The Stoics viewed the self not as a statue, but as a fire, living, consuming, and constantly changing. Heraclitus, a philosopher who heavily influenced Stoicism, famously said, "No man ever steps in the same river twice, for it's not the same river, and he's not the same man. If you are the same man today that you were 10 years ago, you have not lived, you have merely existed." A wise man understands that character is a habit, not a genetic defect. The rewrite. Instead of claiming, "That's just how I am," the Stoic says, "This is how I have been, and I am currently working to correct it." This shift acknowledges the past without being enslaved by it. It turns your flaw into a project, not a prison. 2. I don't have time, the lie of priorities. How often do we hear a man claim he cannot work out, cannot read, or cannot build a business because he doesn't have time? This is perhaps the most common lie told in the modern world. This phrase is an insult to the very nature of time itself. We all possess the same 24 hours that were given to Marcus Aurelius while he ruled the largest empire on earth, and to Seneca while he wrote the letters that still guide us today. To say you have no time is to admit that you have no command over your own life. It signals that you are a passenger in your existence, drifting wherever the urgent demands of others take you, rather than steering the ship yourself. "I don't have time" is code for "I do not value this enough." It is a deflection that allows a man to feel like a victim of his schedule rather than the architect of his misery. The Stoic perspective. Seneca, in On the Shortness of Life, wrote with piercing clarity, "It is not that we have a short time to live, but that we waste a lot of it." He observed that men guard their money with miserly greed, yet they hand out their time, the one thing they can never get back, to anyone who asks. If you spend hours scrolling, arguing in comment sections, or engaging in leisure that brings no restoration, you have time. You simply lack discipline. The rewrite: eliminate "I don't have time" from your vocabulary. Replace it with the brutal truth: it is not a priority for me right now. Say that out loud. My health is not a priority. My mind is not a priority. If that statement makes you uncomfortable, good. Let that discomfort drive you to reclaim your hours. 3. It's not my fault. The abdication of the throne. There is nothing more repulsive to the Stoic mind than a man who points fingers when his world collapses. It's not my fault is the mantra of the eternal child. He blames the economy for his poverty. He blames his wife for his unhappiness. He blames his parents for his trauma. And while these external factors may indeed be the source of the pain, focusing on them is the death of power. The moment you assign blame to something outside of yourself, you also assign the power to fix it to that same external force. You make yourself a hostage to circumstance. A stupid man believes that innocence is the goal. He wants to be found not guilty of his life's failures. A wise man knows that innocence is irrelevant. Only responsibility matters. The Stoic perspective. Epictetus, the slave-turned-philosopher, taught the ultimate lesson in agency. It is the action of an uninstructed person to reproach others for his own misfortunes, of one entering upon instruction to reproach himself, and of one perfectly instructed to reproach neither others nor himself. The Stoic does not waste energy determining who started the fire. He focuses entirely on how to extinguish it. He understands the dichotomy of control. You cannot control the event, but you have absolute godlike authority over your reaction to the event. The rewrite. Stop saying, "It's not my fault." Start saying, "This is my responsibility." Even if you didn't break it, it is your job to fix it because it is your life that is impacted. Ownership is the only path to freedom. 4. I deserve better. The poison of entitlement. This phrase is the silent killer of ambition. I deserve better. It reeks of arrogance disguised as self-worth. We live in an era that teaches men they are entitled to happiness, entitled to a loyal partner, entitled to a high salary. But the universe operates on cause and effect, not on deserve. When a man believes he is owed something, he sits and waits for the delivery. He becomes bitter when the world doesn't recognize his genius or his nice guy status. Entitlement is the gap between what you want and what you have earned. The wider that gap, the more miserable you will be. The stupid man looks at the successful and thinks, "Why them?" The wise man looks at the successful and asks, "What price did they pay that I have not yet paid?" The Stoic perspective. The Stoics believed in cosmopolitanism and duty, but they never believed in transactional karma from the universe. Marcus Aurelius reminded himself constantly to be like the vine that produces grapes without asking for applause. He wrote, "You have done a good deed. What more do you want? Is it not enough that you have acted according to your nature?" To demand a reward for being a decent man is to transact with virtue rather than embody it. The rewrite: kill the entitlement. Do not say, "I deserve." Say, "I earn." Or better yet, adopt the Stoic view. I am entitled to my labor, but not the fruit of my labor. Do the work because it is right, not because you are waiting for a trophy. I don't care, the armor of numbness. In an attempt to appear stoic, lowercase s, many men adopt a posture of false indifference. They shrug their shoulders at loss, at failure, or at the suffering of others and say, "I don't care." But this is not Stoicism. This is cynicism. It is a defense mechanism. Men say they don't care because they are terrified that if they did care, they might fail or they might get hurt. It is safer to act like nothing matters than to admit that you want something deeply and might not get it. This apathy rots the soul. It creates a man who stands for nothing, fights for nothing, and protects nothing. It is a withdrawal from life itself. The Stoic perspective. Stoicism is not about having no emotions. It is about having the right emotions. It is about caring deeply about the things that align with virtue, justice, courage, wisdom, and letting go of the trivial. Marcus Aurelius cared deeply about Rome. He cared about his children. He sacrificed his health and his years for the good of the hive. He didn't say, "I don't care." He said, "I care only about what makes me a good man." The rewrite: don't pretend to be a stone. Instead of, "I don't care," say, "I will not let this disturb my inner peace, but I will address it with my full attention." Care about your character, care about your actions. Let the rest go, not out of apathy, but out of focus. 6. It is what it is, the passive surrender. Finally, we come to the most dangerous phrase of our time, often mistaken for wisdom. It is what it is. On the surface, this sounds like acceptance. It sounds like amor fati, the love of fate. But listen to the tone in which it is usually spoken. It is almost always a sigh. It is spoken by men who have been beaten down by circumstances and have decided to stop fighting. When a stupid man says, "It is what it is," he means, "I am helpless to change this, so I will suffer through it." It is a declaration of learned helplessness. It is a way to avoid the hard thinking required to turn a disaster into an opportunity. The Stoic perspective. The Stoic does accept reality. He does not fight the rain or the traffic. However, acceptance is the starting line, not the finish line. When the Stoic says, "It is what it is," he follows it immediately with action. The obstacle is the way, as Marcus Aurelius put it. The impediment to action advances action. The fire feeds on the obstacles thrown into it. We do not just endure fate, we utilize it. The rewrite: do not use this phrase to close the book on a problem. Use it to open a new chapter. Instead of a resigned, "It is what it is," say, "It is what it is, and here is what I am going to do with it." Accept the circumstance, then immediately pivot to the offensive. How can this failure make you stronger? How can this loss sharpen you? 7. I'll do it tomorrow. The arrogance of immortality. Now we arrive at the most common lie in the human experience, a phrase that has killed more dreams than fear ever could. I'll do it tomorrow. The stupid man believes that tomorrow is a guaranteed resource, a bank account that automatically replenishes. He puts off the difficult conversation, the workout, the apology, or the pursuit of his life's work because he operates under the delusion that he has endless time. But this is not just laziness. It is arrogance. It is a staggering lack of respect for the fragility of life. When you push a duty to tomorrow, you are taking out a mortgage on a house you do not own. You are assuming that fate will grant you another sunrise, yet history is filled with men who went to sleep with plans for the morning and never woke up. Procrastination is not a time management problem. It is an emotional rebellion against reality. It is the childish hope that the future version of yourself will be stronger, more disciplined, and more willing to suffer than the present version of yourself. But that is a fantasy. If you cannot do it today, when the urge is fresh, you will certainly not do it tomorrow, when the entropy of life has set in. The Stoic perspective. Marcus Aurelius, writing in his tent on the warfront, constantly reminded himself of the imminence of death. He wrote, "You could leave life right now. Let that determine what you do and say and think." He also warned, "Do not act as if you were going to live 10,000 years. Death hangs over you. While you live, while it is in your power, be good." To the Stoic, The present moment is the only thing we possess. The past is dead. The future is uncertain. To trade the only thing you have now for something you might never get tomorrow is the ultimate act of foolishness. The rewrite: eradicate the word tomorrow from your decision-making process. Instead say, I must do this now, for tomorrow is not promised to me. Treat every delay as a gamble with death, a gamble the house eventually wins. 8. What will they think? The chains of opinion. There is a specific kind of slavery that leaves no physical marks but binds a man tighter than iron. The obsession with the phrase, what will they think? The weak man outsources his self-esteem to the crowd. He dresses, speaks, and acts not according to his own principles, but according to the anticipated reaction of an audience that largely does not care about him. He fears embarrassment more than he fears living a lie. This phrase reveals a man who has no internal compass. He is a leaf blowing in the wind of public opinion, turning whichever way the societal breeze dictates. He suppresses his true nature, hides his ambitions, and dilutes his potential simply to avoid the momentary discomfort of being judged by people he likely does not even respect. Why do we value the applause of fools? Why do we let the judgment of neighbors, co-workers, or internet strangers dictate the trajectory of our lives? To ask, what will they think, is to hand the keys of your happiness to a chaotic, fickle mob. The Stoic perspective. Marcus Aurelius was the most powerful man on earth, yet he marveled at this human paradox. I have often wondered how it is that every man loves himself more than all the rest of men, but yet sets less value on his own opinion of himself than on the opinion of others. The Stoic understands that fame and reputation are externals, things outside our control. To tie your peace of mind to them is madness. If you are honest, just, and brave, let them think what they will. Their opinions are a reflection of them, not you. The rewrite. When you feel the eyes of the crowd upon you, do not ask for their approval. Ask yourself, does this action align with my own reason and integrity? If the answer is yes, let the world laugh. A lion does not lose sleep over the opinion of sheep. And if only I hadn't. The ghost of regret. The 9th phrase is the sound of a man walking backward through life. If only I hadn't. This is the language of regret, of rumination, of clawing at the unchangeable past. The stupid man tortures himself with alternative histories. He replays his mistakes on an endless loop, thinking that if he suffers enough in his mind, he can somehow atone for the past. If only I had taken that job. If only I hadn't said that to her. If only I had bought that investment. This is a waste of spiritual energy so profound it borders on insanity. Regret is a second injury you inflict upon yourself. The first injury was the mistake itself. The second is your refusal to let it die. By living in the if only, you rob the present moment of its power. You become a ghost haunting your own life, unable to touch the reality in front of you because your hands are full of ashes from yesterday. The Stoic perspective. The Stoics practiced amor fati, the love of fate. This means not just accepting what happened, but embracing it as essential fuel for who you are today. Epictetus taught, do not seek for things to happen the way you want them to. Rather, wish that what happens happen the way it happens. Then you will be happy. A mistake is not a time machine. It is a lesson. The Stoic looks at his past failures not with shame, but with the clinical detachment of a surgeon. He extracts the wisdom, stitches the wound, and moves on. He knows that to argue with the past is to argue with reality, and reality always wins. The rewrite. Stop digging up graves. Replace, if only I hadn't with, the past is dead and cannot be touched. What is the lesson I must carry forward? Turn your regret into a weapon for the future, or drop it entirely. There is no third option. 10. I already know that. The ego of ignorance. And finally, the most deceptive phrase of all, the one that prevents a man from ever becoming wise. I already know that. You hear this when you try to give a man advice, when he reads a philosophy book, or when he watches a video like this. I know I should work out. I know I should control my temper. I know I shouldn't procrastinate. He confuses intellectual recognition with practical wisdom. The stupid man thinks that because he has heard a concept, he has mastered it. He collects knowledge like trivia, stacking it in his mind without ever letting it touch his behavior. But in Stoicism and in life, you do not know what you do not live. If you say you know that health is important, but you are obese and sedentary, you do not know it. You have merely heard rumors of it. This phrase is the ego defending itself from the pain of application. It is a way to dismiss the truth, so you don't have to do the hard work of embodying it. The Stoic perspective. Epictetus was ruthless with his students regarding this. He said, "It is impossible for a man to learn what he thinks he already knows." He taught that philosophy is not a parlor trick or a set of theories to debate. It is a craft, like carpentry. A carpenter doesn't talk about wood, he builds. To the Stoic, knowledge without action is worse than ignorance. It is hypocrisy. Real knowledge is burned into the nervous system through repetition and hardship. The rewrite. Humility is the gateway to growth. Never say, "I already know that." Instead, ask yourself the brutal question, "I have heard this truth, but do my actions prove that I understand it?" If your life doesn't reflect the knowledge, you are still a beginner. Sit down, shut up, and do the work. 10 phrases, 10 signals. That's just how I am. Real men don't talk about feelings. It's not my fault. I deserve better. That's not my job. It is what it is. I'll do it tomorrow. What will they think? If only I hadn't. I already know that. These are the bricks that build a prison. You have likely spoken them. I have spoken them. But the difference between a foolish man and a wise man is not that the wise man never slips. It is that the wise man catches himself. He hears the weakness in his own voice and he cuts it out. Your language is the software of your mind. If you keep running the script of a victim, a procrastinator, and an entitled child, you will never become the man you were meant to be. Stoicism is not a philosophy of words. It is a philosophy of acts. But the first act is to speak the truth to yourself. Clean up your speech, purify your intent, and let your silence be heavier than your noise. Like this video if you're ready to do the work. Subscribe to join the few who actually do. And leave a comment below with the one phrase you are removing from your life today. The talking is over. Now we begin.